we go. So, if you want to just say your name for the camera then.
My name is Henry Adam Clark.
Okay. And what is it that we're doing today?
We're conducting a video evaluation of my final major project.
Cool. So, alright then, Henry. Again, we'll have a little bit of a chat about each part of the process, but obviously this is an evaluation.
Yeah.
So, we're going to evaluate each different part, okay? We're going to look at 4 different sections of research, your planning, production, and also post-production processes, and then maybe just wrap it all up with a kind of general overview about how you felt the project went and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, first of all then, let's talk about your researching. Can you just tell us a little bit about, first of all, what did you actually do? What did you do in terms of research?
My initial research involved looking online for like websites and my project was concerning the blue plaques of the Wakefield area. So I was looking online for information. I learned there was a booklet I could purchase, so I went and purchased the booklet. I also managed to secure an interview with the head of the Wakefield Civic Society, who basically runs all the blue plaques in Wakefield.
Okay.
That was rather an informative interview. In it, he stated that not all the blue plaques in Wakefield are actually Civic Society ones. They're not official blue plaques. Some of them are put up by like the Rotary Club or stuff like that.
And what? So how did your research actually help you then?
I learnt to. He basically told me some of the ones to avoid if you are making the documentary about the blue plaques of Wakefield, because these aren't official ones.
Right. So they were a bit precious, weren't they? About it, of like, they're not official ones. These are the official ones. So
yeah.
So was that important for you then for your project, and why was it important?
Because I feel if I hadn't have done that, I would have been taking videos just about anything that looked vaguely blackish.
Yeah.
And that would have been a mistake. That would have included like stuff from the Rotary Club and like that.
Okay. So in terms of your research, then both initial, secondary, and even your primary research, what did you do for things like primary?
I conducted a survey via the Microsoft Forms function, which I asked how much do you know about the back to the Wakefield area.
How did that go? Was it a good process or was it not? Or
I do feel I could have phrased the questions and the answers better in hindsight, but I did get mostly like I would say negative responses, but from the people that didn't know what they were. Or how many, or weren't sure how many had seen.
And was that more down to, like you were just saying, the phrasing of the questions, or was that because they just didn't know?
I think it was a bit of both.
Right.
Look, I'm trying to being a bit of both.
So, again, like hindsight being a beautiful thing. If we were to have to say, if I went, okay, we have to conduct some primary research again, what would you do differently?
I'd probably rephrase my questions and rephrase the answers.
Well, the answers are up to.
Yeah, rephrase the options.
The options of the answers.
Yeah.
Okay. So on a whole, then, do you think that the research process for you went well?
I think so. Yeah. All in all, like I managed to get the survey done. I managed to get the answers I wanted. I managed to get some good information. So I learned that not a lot of people know what or where the blue plaques are. Stuff like that.
And was that important for you then?
Yeah.
Like, kind of, because I remember speaking to you about it, and it was like, this is the reason why I want to do it, because not a lot of people know about, and they're literally walking past dozens of them on the way to college, and they haven't even a clue what they are. So, so if we were to say, so we said the research went quite well. Would there or was there any other things that you could have done in terms of research that you didn't really do, and looking back you kind of go, oh, I wish I'd have done this, or wish
I
I'd
should have
done
looked
that.
at more websites, and I should have looked at more magazines.
And why is that?
Because like I wasn't sure if there was any magazines about it, but I know there was a couple more websites I could have checked.
Right, and how do you think that would have helped you?
That would have probably given me more information to use.
For what sections of?
For first over the voiceover that I did for the project itself.
Right.
And also the knowledge of where some of these are, like to help
Plan it out, I suppose, the route and everything, wasn't it? Because I remember when you was doing the plan, that kind of puts us nicely onto that section, really.
Pre-production
That pre-production planning and things like that. So, what were the kind of documents that you used? Did you use many different forms of planning, or what? Can you tell us what you did?
College has the old photography planning document from the last project, Project 2, and I basically just used that because it's right there. It's a handy template for that kind of thing.
And what sort of things were inside that template?
Shoot description, so what you're going to need, stuff like that. Risk assessment, location form, location recce's, location permission forms, which I didn't need because I was shooting on public property. I was shooting on public land. I wouldn't need location permission forms for that.
And did you think that was, again, did you think you did it well? Do you think there were other things that you could have, other templates or other forms you could have added into there? Do you think you covered everything enough?
I do believe I covered everything. Like, I could have done a bit more thought about the legal and ethical issues of my work, but...
And do you now know a bit
think
more
so,
about
yeah.
them? What would you say they were then, looking at it now?
People being filmed when they don't want to be filmed.
And what does that fall under, can you remember?
Invasion of privacy laws. I can't recall the exact name of the act.
Yeah, so it was things like intellectual property law and things like that, wasn't it? We've kind of covered before as well. So what do you think then was your strength in terms of planning? What do you think you were particularly good at?
I'd say the risk assessment, because I've always had a keen eye for like spotting risks and stuff.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so I was like, fires, how to avoid fires.
Yeah,
Have any
preventions
flames.
and things like that.
Yeah.
Cool. So having a keen eye for stuff like that's probably really helped you for that. If you was to pick one out that you think that was probably my worst bit and I could be loads better at that, in terms of planning, what would it be?
Probably the location recce's.
Okay. And why is that?
Because I was going in sort of blind, like, I knew where some locations were, I knew how to get to them, but even so I was going in blind for like the angles and stuff.
Right, okay.
Potential risks of those places.
Right. So, and again, if you was to have to do a similar sort of project or even an entirely different project, what would you do differently
I'd probably
in terms
pay
of
more
planning?
attention to the legal and ethical issues.
Right, and why is that?
Because I will admit I didn't give them I gave them next to no thought when I was doing this project. So I figured next time give them a bit more thought, maybe I'll avoid running into a minefield with a blindfold.
And how do you think that will actually change the product overall then? How will that make it different, taking those into consideration?
I'd have to be more careful with how I shoot to avoid getting people in the shot.
So what you're basically saying is it could help you actually make production, like technical skill decisions in terms of angle types and shot types and things like that, as well as actual locations. Okay. If we move on to kind of production then.
Yeah.
Did you come across any problems, or were there any obstacles
I'd say the biggest obstacle I faced was the weather itself. Like,
Right.
there were days when it was raining heavily, there were days when it was windy, and I couldn't get out there to film on the grounds of those things would have messed up the camera.
Okay.
Occasional technical issues like the camera seizing up at one point, which was a big annoyance.
Yeah. What could you have done differently then, looking back at it?
I could have checked the weather forecast, brought a coat or something like that. Definitely could have checked the camera before going in the case of the technical issues.
Backups. Did you have any backups or any plan Bs?
I didn't have any backups per se, but I was uploading the footage at the end of every session. But no, I didn't have any backups per se.
Right. Okay. So let's have a look at think about what you think your key areas for development are in terms of production and practical skill. What do you think you probably need to get better at?
Like, I was actually preparing for it, like checking weather forecasts.
So the actual planning stage of it, really.
Yeah, production itself. I probably definitely need to work on like my panning and stuff and my camera movement.
So a bit of camera movement, camera skill. Why is that? Why do you say that then? What evidence do you have to suggest that at the moment?
I reviewed my footage when it was fully uploaded, and the camera works just struck me as kind of. I could have done better.
Okay.
I could have improved the camera work because it was.
And why is that? What was it about?
I was zooming in too quickly. I was panning across too fast. Like the camera was jerky. Like I was running with it in my hand.
Yeah. Because sometimes it's almost like you found out the hard way, isn't it? That even when you think you're being kind of careful and steady with it, that actually those slightest little movements can make a huge difference once you're actually watching it back, can't they? Okay, what would you say? What was your skill? Do you think? What do you think was your strength in terms of the way you produced it, and your technical skill? What do you think was a good bit? Or do you not think there were any good bits? Do you think you need to improve in all of it?
I need to improve on all of it.
Right. And in regards to your preparation and things like that, and also your research, how valuable was your research that you did in helping you produce your product?
It was most likely extremely valuable. It told me where the plaques were, where I could find them, what their details were, stuff like that. But there were like some that it was also not helpful because there were some plaques that I couldn't find where they were listed.
Right.
And so they weren't included. There were some plaques that I couldn't get to. For example, there's one just outside this building, just about half a metre that way. The Registry of Deeds, on the old Registry of Deeds building.
Right.
I couldn't get to due to building works.
Right.
But again, and even though I found some that weren't on the map that they gave me, because that was from 2012.
Right, so the map was out of date,
yeah,
essentially.
a couple of them put up in 2016 and 2017.
Right, okay. Okay. So, let's think about then post-production. Because I know you did quite a lot in terms of post-production, spent a little bit of time in post-production.
Yeah.
Just talk us through, first of all, what you did, what kind of software you used, what kind of tools and techniques and things like that you used.
At first I used the Sony Vegas software in order to get like all of it in front of me and then just start clipping it down, like tearing apart and stitching it together, a bit like a Frankenstein.
Yeah.
But it's alive.
Yeah.
Now I know what it feels like to be God. Sorry. Yeah, like having to stitch it all together, like cut away all the useless bits, like all the useless bits of me just walking between the plaques and stuff. Cutting it extremely fine into places. Other places my cuts are sloppy as all hell. Yeah, like learning how to splice, ungroup the audio tracks so I can delete the vocal track that goes along with it. Learning how to slot in audio and make end cards and transitions, which were
what kind of could you give us an example then of like maybe one of the tools or things like one of these transitions that you did use then? Can you talk us through maybe
the very
one
opening?
of them?
It transitions from the title card into my intro with just like a old school barn door transition.
Right. And how did you go about doing that then? Was that an easy thing to do?
It was relatively easy because all I had to do was just go down to the transitions menu of the software, just click barn door, drag it into it. It was relatively easy.
Yeah. So and do you think that there was even other ways of doing the same sort of thing, or do you think that was the easiest way of doing it?
I believe there could have been more ways, but I didn't do a lot of research, so it's not possible there was more ways to do it, but I didn't find them.
So again, it's like, hindsight being a beautiful thing again. Looking back on it, could you have maybe done some research within the software?
Yeah.
And
I should have
how do you think doing research over the software could have been beneficial for you? How would that have made
it probably would have made my experience easier, just,
How?
Because then I know what to do, I know where to find it, I know how to get it improved. Yeah, it probably made the project smoother.
In terms of what? In terms of
like just the transitions and the cuts and the pans across, stuff like that.
Okay, cool.
Uh,
So, looking back at the entire process as a whole, what do you think you learnt the most? Going from all the way from taking the brief.
I should have done more research, and also that stitching together a full project is harder than it looks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
yeah, I should have been more careful when stitching together the project, because there's long stretches in the voiceover of like nothing but sounds of typing and clicking.
Right. But in terms of your overall thoughts on you personally, where do you think that you couldn't improve in the future? What would you say would be your key area for developing and getting better?
Probably research, reflections and evaluations. Those three things.
Research, reflections and evaluations. So reflections and evaluations are kind of very similar. So what is it about that do you think you could do then to improve it? What could you do?
Research, I could have done a lot more. Like I really meant I didn't do enough research as I planned. I should have gone more in depth. I should have phrased the questions differently, phrased the options differently. Research, I should actually put some actual depth into my research, into my reflections, and that way I can actually get better reflections and better.
So how could you do it then? Given the fact that we've spoken before about, and you've had some tutor feedback from your first and second projects in regards to using different processes to do the same thing, in terms of evaluation and reflections, similar to what we're doing now, I suppose, what were other things that you could have done?
I could have set aside a particular slot of time specifically for reflections, to which I hammer it all out. I should have brought my laptop in more often, because that's got specialised spell and speaking software that definitely help with my pronunciation and my where things are going.
And how's that impacted your project on a whole then? Not having having the software at hand all the time.
I tend to give 1, 2 or 3 word answers, because that's the most I can spell.
Right.
But this speaking spell software, I can just talk what's on my mind and boom, it's out on the screen.
Right, okay. So when we're thinking about evaluating, we're looking at the process after we've done it, and we're looking back at the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of, can you talk to me a little bit more in terms of your time management and how you felt
my
that
time
went?
management was extremely poor.
And why do you say that? Because I know, and I only asked you that question specifically because I know you've put things in your blog about time quite a lot. So it's obviously been something that
I tend to get too wrapped up in my own head and get distracted easily. I tend to be easily ooh, what's that? Zipping around in my head, and you get lost in my own mind. And by the time I'm wait, what's happening? The lesson's over.
So how do you think you could improve? How could you could improve on that, or how do you think the project could be made better? Do you think it would be better with the additions of crew members and things like that, for an example?
Probably, yeah, and also I need something to focus more.
Okay.
Like I said, I get easily distracted and tend to lose my mind.
Right. Okay. So just to wrap it all up, then. Let's talk about, rather than just talking about the project and the process, just like your own general thoughts about how you think you've performed and where you think that you can improve on. Where do you, as a whole, rather than
definitely
just the
think I could do a lot better than what I've done.
And why is that?
Like I said, my time management was atrocious. I need to work on my camera skills and stuff.
How would you do that though? What can you possibly do to improve
probably
on
practicing with my home camera and stuff like that. Just make sure I get the down. And also try to focus more on the project itself rather than just whatever's off in my mind at that time.
Okay. Good. Okay. So just having a little look at all the sort of things that we need to consider in terms of evaluation. Okay. We've said about things that went well. We've talked about things that didn't go so well and why. We've also kind of covered like challenging obstacles, yeah, and how you could potentially overcome them. Time management and things like that being kind of the main forefront, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In future, what you'd do differently and why. We've discussed that as well, which is good. Your key areas for development in terms of strengths and weaknesses. I mean, where would you like this information and knowledge that you've learnt this year to take you? And what do you think?
I might want to make some more like documentaries in the future.
Yeah.
I had an idea for one the other day.
And do you think this process and doing this project has
definitely
allowed you to...
Like, I can learn from my mistakes. Like, this is what I did last time, this didn't go well, so let me try something else.
Yeah. Even down to the way you plan it, the way you research it, and things like that. I'm hoping that you can see now, looking back at what you've done, where you've kind of made some mistakes and you can rectify it, and also, just as important, identifying what you've done well. Because actually, I think one of your strengths has been, as my own little bit of tutor feedback, was actually you did quite a bit of extensive research in terms of there was a lot of knowledge and a lot of content in terms of what you was talking about in terms of the blue plaques themselves. Thought that bit was great, and you've got lots of information in there. I think the main thing for me would be you improving on, as you've identified yourself, your camera technique.
Yeah.
So it's using the tripods, maybe having a look at how to use a stabilizer or a gimbal, something that's going to give you those smoother shots so it's not as shaky.
Yeah.
And as well, maybe even exploring the thoughts of different modes of documentary.
Yeah.
The way you decided to do it was very Attenborough-esque, very
the
kind of
exploratory mode.
And that whole voice of God sort of style, rather than, I think it would make quite good viewing to actually have you more as a presenter in there. But
like
of course,
Brian Cox.
but of course, it's difficult to be as a one-man band to be behind the camera and in front of it at the same time.
My plan was originally to be behind and in front of the camera, but I realised that was too much hassle, so I decided to stay behind the camera the whole time.
Absolutely. So, little things like that, improving on the crew and getting someone else to help you and stuff like that, maybe they are future developments that you could maybe consider.
Yeah.
All right. Well done, Henry.
Cheers, sir.